Hello. Excuse me. Happy Sunday. Uh, December 1st. Amazing. I hope everything is going fine. It seems like we're having a few technical difficulties. Not quite certain what's going on with that, but hopefully we're okay. And I am Luana Bradford, and I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about another great read, Chop Wood and Carry Water, Chop Wood and Carry Water by Joshua Medcalf. And the principle of this book is entitled How to Fall in Love with the Process of Becoming Great. How to Fall in Love with the Process of Becoming Great. And many of us in our life, in our business, we have ambitions. We have those big goals, right? We want to feel a sense of accomplishment. But often we can find ourselves trying to navigate the process, right? Circumvent certain parts of it that feel a little uncomfortable, right? We don't want to do all the refinement. We just want to jump straight to it. I remember when I was younger and competing in sports, I enjoyed practice pretty much, but I was really excited about the game, right? But when I had to focus on some of the, to me, seemed to be painstaking, mundane tactics and drills that we were doing, I didn't want to go there. I'm like, okay, how many times do I have to throw this ball from first base to second base? How many times do I have to do this, right? How many times do I have to run laps around the bases? Why? But all of that actually helps to refine us, right? It's in the details. It's being committed to the details. One of the things that John Gordon, who is a best-selling author of The Energy Bus, wrote about this book, Chop Wood and Carry Water. He said, this book is a must-read for anyone who wants to master their craft. And again, when we're talking about mastery, not just kind of going about hoping things will work, throwing something at the wall and see what sticks, but being so focused on what it is that you're trying to accomplish that you're willing to achieve mastery in it, because then what will that give you? Predictable results. So we will be back in a moment, and we are going to take a little bit of a deep dive into this book, Chop Wood and Carry Water by Joshua Medcalf. And there's so many things that he discusses in this book, from under pressure, what do you do when pressure hits you, why it's impossible to cheat the person in the mirror. Greatness isn't sexy. It's dirty and hard work. Often we see people at the end of the road and we think they're overnight success. He unpackages that. There's so much more. He talks about comparison being the thief of joy. I like to call it comparisonitis, right? We don't want to be infected by that. And how to develop true mental toughness. So again, there's a lot in this book to unpackage. We could literally be here for hours just talking about different principles, reflecting on what it means to each one of us, taking notes, writing it down, getting some aha moments, maybe writing down some strategies and tactics that we can implement right now to ensure that we are definitely on the road to becoming great. But we don't have that time today. But what we do have time for is to go over 3 key principles. And we'll be right back, and we'll get right into the book.
Power of the Pen with Luana Bradford, expanding the impact and influence of authors from around the world. If you want to change the world, pick up your pen and write, said Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Books are uniquely portable magic. Power of the Pen spotlights authors from around the world. Listen as authors share messages that educate, motivate, inspire, and entertain. Join us each Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern on e360tv.com.
As I mentioned, we are back here talking about Chop Wood and Carry Water by Joshua Medcalf. And one of the things that we want to ask ourselves is, how committed are we to that particular goal and objective, right? We can have intention all day long, but how committed are we to that? Now, this book goes into a journey of an individual by the name of John. And John grew up just fascinated with samurai. And he committed to himself that he was going to become a samurai archer. So there's different degrees of samurai. And he wanted to become a master at this discipline. So much so that he paid to invest years of training in Japan. However, what he uncovered was, instead of getting straight to archery and learning how to string your bow, draw your bow, hit your target, and just become a master at that, he was disappointed to find that the sensei told him, we'll get to that later, but first you need to learn how to chop wood and carry water. When we think about our coaches and mentors around us, we often can't see what we really need because we're inside the frame, but they understand what it takes to reach greatness. They've been there, they've done that, they've gotten the t-shirt, right? They have the battle scars to prove that we know what we're doing. But sometimes we can get a little arrogant and think, I got this. I know how to do this. And sometimes we end up cutting off our nose to spite our face because we're a little frustrated with the process or the time that we've invested in a particular process. Now, one of the stories that it starts off with is, as I said, John is the character of the entire book. But the sensei was telling him about a story of an individual who was a master architect and master builder. And he had been doing this for 30 plus years. And finally he decided, I've done enough. I'm tired. I'm ready to move on. And he went to ask permission to retire. And his employer said, or the company that he worked with, the CEO said, yes, there's no problem, but we just need you to do one more thing. And he thought, well, what do I have to do? And they said, we need you to build another house. Oh, he was so frustrated. It's like, why do I have to build another house? I'm ready to go. I don't want to build another house. They said, that's the last thing we need to ask you to do. So again, keep in mind, I said, even sometimes in those who may be in the lane of master, if you've been doing something a little bit longer, you may get a little frustrated, right? You're just tired. You just want to do something different, right? Hang up your hat. And so that's where this individual was. He was frustrated, and he begrudgingly said, okay. And the difference was the pride and the level of detail that he had in building his previous homes. He didn't have with this one. It was lackluster. He wasn't on the site very often. He just deferred a lot of his responsibilities to someone else, to the point that, yes, the home got built. It was delayed. It was late. But 4 months later, the home was built, but it wasn't to his standards of excellence. And he knew that, but he just wanted to go. Well, as he goes and lets them know that he's going to retire, the owner says, well, we have one more thing for you. And the guy's like, you're kidding me. One more thing? I told you I'm done. He said, just one more thing. And he hands him a box, and he opens up the box, and there are keys in the box. And he said, this is keys to the home you just built. You deserve it. Thank you so much for your service. Well, what's the lesson there? Sometimes we can block our own blessing. We can get in our own way because we are so frustrated with where we are. So again, here's someone who is a master architect and builder, but he was so tired that he just didn't want to do that one more thing. And then when he did it, he didn't do it to the same level of excellence. So that's kind of the first lesson, is when we're thinking about what we do and how we show up in life, whatever our standards are, we want to make sure that we're consistent with it. Even when we're on our way out, that we close out with the same level of excellence. But where does excellence come from? Right? It comes from discipline. It comes from doing the same thing over and over again, sharpening that eye, right? Strengthening that muscle, those reflexes, whatever it is that you're doing, right? That mental acumen that needs to be refined, doing it over and over again, that what may take someone who's new to it so much longer, you can do it faster. So let's go back to John. He's very frustrated, as I said, about chopping wood and carrying water. And I want to read this one part of the book. It says here, most people are consumed with their day-to-day lives that they never pause to see the big picture. And the author here wants us to not just be so concerned with the details of the day, but be able to pan back and see possibly how the big little details fit into the whole. But very often, based upon our lens, we're unable to see that. So he says that they're so consumed with their day-to-day lives that they never pause to see the big picture. And in the big picture, every single choice matters. So think about it, the choices that you make every single day. Some people think, it's no big deal. But choices add up. And ultimately, I've heard people say we're the sum of our life experiences. I think we're the sum of our choices. And it says every choice matters no matter how small. Everything you choose to read, listen to, or look at. Everything you think about, dream about, or focus on. And especially your circle. People who you surround yourself with and allow to influence you can make a big difference on who you become. And this is where we talk about the inches, like how close we can be to greatness. But inches, meaning listening to the wrong things, being in the wrong circle, reading the wrong material can affect us and cause us to just get off course by inches. But then when we look at where we end up with where we wanted to go, those inches make a huge difference. He says inches may look small up close, but added over the right amount of time, they can cover any distance in the universe. And how this lesson came about was, remember, John wanted to be a samurai archer. And so he was frustrated as he's finally getting an opportunity to use his bow and his arrow, that every time he was ready to pull that back, the sensei was coming up and adjusting him just slightly, every so slightly, and it was frustrating him. It was like, leave me alone, I've got this, right? How many of us are in situations, and now speaking to you as entrepreneurs and business owners, it's like, I've got this. I did it in corporate. I've got this. Well, working in a corporate setting and working in your own business is very different, right? Because your role is different. And where you may have seen certain things in part, you may have only had to work in HR and corporate, but now as the CEO or owner of your business, you need to understand all business functions until you're able to hire those particular experts to take over those parts of your business. So it's important for us to have the right coaches and mentors to guide us, right? Like he's talking about how to become great, because if we have the right coaches and mentors and sensei in this case, then they can help us to navigate the minefields, to find opportunity in the chaos, because right now we see it as totally chaotic. Like this, why am I carrying water and chopping wood? That's chaotic to me. That has nothing to do with my goal, or so he thought, right? I need to, sort of like the Karate Kid, wax on, wax off. What does that have to do with anything? But discipline has to do with everything. And so the other thing that he says that was very interesting, and I love this, is the author talks about artificial maturity. And I want to just sit in this for a moment. Artificial maturity. When we're thinking about artificial maturity, that's individuals who have not done the work, not had the discipline in getting the reps in, but have taken the shortcuts, have found a way to what they think is beat the system, and have done things like Google University or go and get a quick online certification. And then they are labeling themselves as, I am an expert. Now I'm able to teach you all of this stuff that I just learned. If you'd asked me about it 6 months ago, I would have had zero clue about it. But now that I've taken these courses, I feel empowered. I feel as though I'm an expert in this. And that's what the author is calling as artificial maturity. So here's what he says. I love this story here. This is probably my most favorite of the book. So again, John's goal is to be that samurai archer. And John says, one day he drew his bow, ready to release the arrow. Snap! The bowstring split, leaving John with an unstrung bow. He quickly unpackaged a new one from his apprentice bowstring roll. Akira, that's the sensei, approached, watching with interest as John unraveled a new bowstring, trying to make sense of it. He slowly raised an eyebrow. John, have you done this before? John shook his head, but he wasn't worried. Not personally, but I've seen it done. So you know how to restring it? And John, being with confidence, and we've met individuals like this. We may have even been a John. Of course, I've read about it dozens of times. And like I've said, I've seen it too. I've watched a lot of videos on YouTube. And this is real important to find out who is coaching you, pouring into you. Is this someone who's gotten their expertise or feigned expertise from Google University, spending time on YouTube, or have they actually put in the reps? Have they done it over and over and over again and understanding all the nuances of whatever it is that they may be teaching and providing you? Calmly, Akira nodded. Good. Then I won't stop you, right? And that's what a good coach and mentor does. If you say, I've got it, they pull back. It's like, let's watch. Maybe you know something I don't know. So concentrating hard, John slipped the top loop of the new bowstring snugly over the end of his bow. Then he knelt, gently bending the bow toward him as he guided the bottom loop towards the bow's bottom end. But as he tried to slip the knotted bowstring over the notch, he couldn't quite get it fitted correctly. It kept sliding all over the place. It made it even more difficult by the slick resin coating that was on the brand new bowstring. And so Jonathan is trying this over and over and over again. And the more he tried, the more frustrated he got. And has anyone ever been there? Has anyone besides me been there where someone wants to tell you something, but you've got pride setting in? You feel that you know it. I got this. And you keep bumping your head against the wall again and again and again because you don't want to say, I really don't know what I was going to do, what I'm doing. I thought it looked easier, right? It looked easier than it actually is. And he said, what the heck is wrong with this thing? Why can't I get it to work? And Akira replied calmly, because, John, you only have gnosko of it. You only have gnosko of it. And gnosko is the Greek word meaning knowledge. You only have knowledge of it. And we have to be very guarded with ourselves when we are presenting ourselves in a certain way. Do we have knowledge? Meaning I have awareness of it, I've watched it being done, or do we have a lived experience that we've done over and over and over again where we can get predictable results? And he says that there's a difference between having knowledge and yada, which is that lived experience, which means knowledge gained through experiencing something. He said those are two different things. Then this is what Akira says to him. He says, John, who would you want to go into battle with? Someone who has studied and read about war for 25 years, or someone who has trained and experienced the front line of battle? And I want to ask those of you that are listening to this right now, and you're thinking about who you have in your life, who's pouring into you. Are these people coming from a place of experience, of proven expertise? Is that who you want guiding you with maybe your financial management? Maybe if you're going through marital challenges, is that the person who you want to help you with marital counseling? If it's in the workplace and you're looking to move up the corporate ladder, if someone has never gone beyond an acting team lead, but you have aspirations to become a director, is that the person who you want to pour into you? If you're a business owner and you're just starting, you've been in maybe 1 to 3 years, and you're facing the shifts of changing perspectives with clients. Maybe markets have changed. Maybe new technologies have changed. Would you actually get your guidance from someone who is right where you are? Or would you speak to someone who understands how to navigate the nuances of business? who understands how to navigate industry changes, pricing strategies. So that's what Akira is telling him. So the thing is, we want to make sure that we ourselves are not caught up in the gnosko, where we get a little arrogant. I got this. But rather that we continue to practice, continue to do the reps, continue to do those things that appear to be mundane, repetitive tasks, so that we can eventually apply them systematically in a way where we become yada. We become that expert through applied knowledge, and that we also have those people around us. And one of the things that I offer is I do a training for authors, and not only presenting themselves and presenting their expertise, but making sure that they are aligning with the right people who are able to help them, that they have a list of questions to be able to assess and validate. There's nothing wrong with vetting someone to make sure they are who they say they are, and they can deliver what they say they can deliver, when they can deliver, at the time they can deliver it. Right? There's one thing, a person may be able to deliver it, but they don't have the capacity to get it to you when you need to receive it. So all of those things come to play. And that's what Akira was trying to tell him. And what he found out was this artificial maturity. Again, John felt, I know this. He was in a place of having confidence because he had this artificial maturity. It was when he coated the string with powder. Again, the expert is telling him this is what you need. The master is telling him this is what you need. He coated it with powder, then he was able to string it. Sometimes it's something that small, but that small shift in what we do can make the biggest difference, right? It can help us to excel, or without it, it can cause us to spiral. Oh, we'll be right back in just a moment. Now, everyone wants to be great, yes, but not everyone will do what it takes to be great. So those who are great are willing to do the things that the average person doesn't want to do in order to experience the things that other people never will experience. And this is what this book challenges you. Chop Wood and Carry Water by Joshua Medcalf. Chop Wood and Carry Water challenges us on where do we really stand? How badly do we want it? Or is it just talk? Does it make us feel good? But the moment that road gets a little hard, the moment we don't get that instant gratification, we call it quits. I know I've met so many people in business the past couple of years, something wasn't working as quickly as they needed it to work, and they were pivoting. And they're looking to their left and to their right because they got infected with comparisonitis. And it's like, oh, well, let me try this over here because that's what this person is doing. Or let me try that over there. Instead of saying, this is my lane, right? I'm going to define this lane. I'm going to set the rules in place for this lane. And I'm going to give the mentors, the coaches, whatever I need to help me refine what I need, the skill sets, the knowledge and skills that I need in order to execute to what? Become great. So it's falling in love with the process of becoming great. That is what's so important about this book. It's not only that you're chopping wood and carrying water, but you're transforming your mindset where you're starting to love the process of chopping wood and carrying water. It doesn't just become a burden. Again, you're able to see the bigger point of all that you're doing and how it fits in. The author says, don't believe in myths. Greatness is far from sexy. It is dirty work, and it's usually required to be done in the dark when no one is watching. While your dreams are far off, they even feel like fairy tales. But he says you want to dream big, so you don't want to dismiss and make your dreams small. You definitely want to dream big. but you need to start small, and you have to be, and I love this word, he said, ridiculously faithful, and focus on what you can control. The question we have to ask is, how faithful are we? How committed are we? Many people, we set intentions. I've been there. It's like, yes, I intend, I'm there, but any excuse will do when it comes to intention. But if you're committed, you're going to keep towing the line. When the road gets tough, you're going to keep towing the line. They even use an example of the Navy SEALs in this. And what makes the Navy SEALs so great is the extreme conditions in which they train, right? In order to be able to survive some of the harshest conditions and environments that they will ever face. Not everyone survives Navy SEAL training. Only a few rise to the top. But that's with anything in life. How many people are really that disciplined and that committed to becoming great? I want to read you this other piece here. This is on, he's referring to, there's so many great, I love the way this book is written because there's so many great examples. And Jonathan was challenging. Again, he got to move up to another level of archery, and he got frustrated because it's like, okay, I was doing really good. I was hitting my mark at this level. Now I'm at this level and the target is farther out, and he was missing it. And he's like, okay, I don't get it. Why was I so good here, but then at this level, I'm not as good? And we can get that way, right? We can get overly confident. It's like, why was I so good playing high school ball, but then at a collegiate level, it feels more challenging. It's like, I know the rules of the game, but why does it feel more challenging? Because the competition is different. The environment is different, right? And so he said, Jonathan asked Akira, how did you get so good? And we may question this. We may not ask our mentor or coach this, but it goes in our mind. What did they do? What am I not doing? Again, we may be I'm trying to navigate. I want to learn from what they learned so I can get there faster. Yes, you're going to get there faster, but it's still going to require some work. It may require years and years of whatever you're doing to refine your lane of expertise. I've been in strategic planning for over 30 years, doing it over and over and over again for big business, small business, government agencies. Yes, I have earned my stripes, and yes, I am an expert in strategy. But when I think back, I was talking to my niece and nephew on Friday. When I think back on where I started and I was just introduced to strategy, I was a green bean. Yeah, I got a little cocky when I was given the lead on one part of the project, thinking I knew everything, but I didn't. And when I look back on that now, I chuckle to myself like, wow. But I think we've all been there, right? Where our innocence and our excitement can sometimes get in the way of our growth. And we find, well, there's an easier way. We can do it better. We can do it faster, right? So he says, I never gave up, and I realized that the whole time I was building my own house. So remember, I gave you that initial example of the one individual who is building your own house. The principle about this is the more disciplined we are and focused we are and committed we are, and we are protective of who we allow in our inner circle, what we read, what we listen to, what we speak, especially those words to ourselves. That these are what form the house that we're building, this house that we're building. And however strong that house is will determine how it's able to withstand the shifts and changes when the hurricanes and tsunamis come. Will you be able to stand? And he tells John, he goes, I want to tell you two very important things. Comparison is the thief of all joy, right? It can beat us up because we don't know anyone else's journey. We only see on the surface. We only see in part, right? But it's easy to say, well, why did that person get a promotion and I didn't? We can come up with speculation. There could be biases and every other thing at play. We don't know that. But when we stay focused in our lane and focused on our target, we can manage that joy, right? We're not being tossed to and fro. And it says the grass is never greener on the other side. Because we always hear that, right? Think about some of the things we were taught. The grass is greener on the other side. No, he says the grass isn't greener on the other side. The grass is only greener where you water it. And that's the same thing with our mindset, right? Our mindset is shifted by what we say. If we feed it with negative, toxic inputs, then how do you think our bodies and actions are going to align? What types of habits do you think we're going to form? And ultimately, how will those habits shape our destiny? But when we do the opposite and we really become intentional about these millions of thoughts that are going on in our heads, but if we become conscious of our thoughts and conscious creators as much as we can, and challenge ourselves when that negative comes up, to put it down and replace it with something positive, imagine what shifts you will start to see in your lives, because you'll start to see life in a very different way. And that's one of the exercises that this book challenged John to do, but also challenges us to do. He says, there's nothing noble in being superior to your fellow man. True mobility is being superior to your former self. Again, there's no nobility in being superior to your fellow man. True nobility comes in being superior to your former self. Actor Sidney Poitier also often said that his focus was every day on being better than he was the day before. Better than he was the day before. Not better than someone else, but better than he was. So what does your best self look like? Where are you now, and what are you trying to do and trying to be? And when you look back, when you do today and you look back tomorrow, will you have just moved the needle just a little bit? He challenges us that we have to be so committed to this journey that we're on, because life is but a vapor. We're here and then we're gone. So we can get caught up in things that don't matter, consuming ourselves with the negativity, with comparisonitis, and be distracted from our pathway to excellence. He shares this quote from Will Smith. And I remember I saw an interview where he said this, and it's pretty powerful. Will said, and Will Smith, the actor, talent you have naturally. Skill is only developed by hours and hours of beating on your craft. I've never considered myself particularly talented. This is what Will Smith is saying. But where I excel is ridiculous, sickening work ethic. There is no easy way around it. No matter how talented you are, your talent is going to fail you if you're not skilled. Right? We think about some of the greats. You may have natural talent, but then they come in perfecting that skill, the discipline. You may have someone who is naturally a great singer. I was listening to an interview with Cynthia Erivo, and she was talking about Wicked. And then she mentioned I had to have a voice coach. And I'm thinking, a voice coach? Oh my gosh, your voice is incredible. Well, she needed a voice coach for so many things. Number one, so that she and Ariana Grande were complements, not where one was overtaking the other, right? Overpowering the other, where their voice complemented one another, where it was almost seamless. But then she said, when she was actually, because she did her own stunts, and any of you who saw the movie, going back and forth, right? As a pendulum, she's flying through the air. And she's singing while doing that. She needed to have a vocal coach to help her to expand her lungs and project in a way that wouldn't leave her breathless. So here is someone who is a brilliant singer, but even in her brilliance, realizing I need to have a vocal coach so that my performance will be at a certain level, again, so that I can become great in this performance. And that vocal coach that she went through was the process. So we have to fall in love with the process. And we're going to end it here, where Akira says, I would argue that your potential is much greater than you ever realize, but it will take incredible dedication and purposeful training to unlock it. And I want to say that again. I believe that your potential is much greater than you realize, but it will take incredible dedication and purposeful training to unlock it. There is truly greatness within each of us, right? That's what Les Brown says. You have greatness within. But many fail to unlock it because we're looking at ways to bypass the needed steps. We will never uncover what we could be if we don't allow ourselves to expand and to grow. And I'm going to take a quick break and come right back with the final words.
Power of the Pen with Luana.
There's a warning. I thought this was so interesting. I'm reading this book. I'm like, what? There's a warning at the end? What is this all about? I've never read a book where there's a warning at the end. Again, you are here on Power of the Pen. We are talking about Chop Wood and Carry Water by Joshua Medcalf. And I want to read this because it just caused me to think, that's interesting. It says, shortly after hitting publish, this story quickly became a viral sensation, with hundreds of thousands of people reading it in the first year alone, with no marketing or traditional publisher. The danger with this book is, though it is that the short chapters can create the illusion of your journey to mastery will be quick or as easy as the turn of the page. It can even make you feel like everyone will arrive to their desired outcomes. He says, my fear is that you would leave this story on the high of starting the process, but give up with your reality once the challenge sinks in. This can happen anywhere from day 2 to, he says, month 119. The process is simple. The journey is not. Again, I'll repeat, the process is simple. The journey is not. So we can hear the process, we can understand, we can nod our heads and say yes, but are we willing to be committed to that journey? As he said, the journey isn't easy. And when you read this book and you really sit in it, don't just read it quickly from cover to cover, but really sit in it and parallel it with where you are in life, you'll start to uncover and unpackage some things, and it may not feel very comfortable. He says, I feel, the author says, Joshua says, I feel the need to remind you that the simple things that bring about mastery, greatness, and many other outcomes we want are often like doctors washing their hands before entering the operating room. Easy to do and easy not to do. At many points along the journey, the process loses its sexiness and appeal. It's not sexy to wash one's hands, but it saves millions of lives and millions of dollars by reducing the spread of infection and disease. You can't just read Chop Wood and Carry Water and expect that to be enough. Now listen closely, lean in. You must take what you read and apply it. Please go ahead and read it 5, 10, 50 times. I believe it will hit home in different ways, but you must apply what you learn and experiment with what Chop Wood and Carry Water looks like in your life. You have to do the work. It's about greatness, and it's about what it takes to be great. So thank you so much for joining me for another edition of Power of the Pen. We're here with Chop Wood, Carry Water by Joshua Medcalf, How to Fall in Love with the Process of Being Great. I encourage you, if you have children in high school, college, this is a great read for them. For those of you who are in business, in corporate settings, wherever you are, this is just a good read, and it really challenges the reader to do a lot of introspection, to enjoy the journey of John, right? But then to say, okay, if I put myself in the position of John, where am I falling short? And how do I become great? How do I ensure that I, first of all, value myself am committed to the process, and more importantly, do not become a victim of artificial mastery. And that I do what I need to do every single day to get closer and closer to that mark. So thank you so much for joining me for another edition of Power of the Pen. I look forward to seeing you next week at 2 p.m. Eastern. Be safe and be well. And just remember, in life and in business, when your vision intersects with opportunity, success is inevitable. I'm Luana Bradford. We'll see you soon. Be well.